Hello, my name's Carl Jordan. I work for Energy and Utility Skills, and today I'm going to be talking about green jobs in the energy and utilities industries. Just before I get started, I'll leave the first slide on there. There are four pictures on there that show the industries that make up the energy and utilities sector. So I'll come back to this as we go through the presentation. But as you can see, we've got electricity in there. So the power industry is part of what I'm talking about. The gas industry, water supply and wastewater, and waste generally. Those are our four industries, and that's what we call the energy and utilities sector, and I'll be talking about green jobs in that today. So this is me and who I am and who I work for. So I do the policy work at Energy and Utility Skills with colleagues. So really, I'm interested in what the policies around things like skills and qualifications and apprenticeships are doing and how they match to the policies that are going on in power and water and gas and the waste management industries. And today I've got a particular focus on the green jobs because we think that our sector, the energy and utility sector, is going to be one of the biggest sectors for green jobs, maybe the biggest. So let's take a look at a little bit more detail about what we mean by the sector. So I mentioned just now power, by which we mean electricity, gas, water, and waste management. That picture on the right is a little bit busy, but it gives you an idea at least about some of that. So you'll see in that picture that there is power generation going on. So I think there's some nuclear in there, there's some energy from waste, there's gas going on there, and you can see wind power as well. So you've got all that going on, and then you've got the houses and the factories and the shops and schools, etc., that all that goes to. And in between that, you've got a lot of pipes and wires and an awful lot of people working on this. And you will also add to that the water supply and the wastewater going away. So as you can imagine, our businesses have to deliver for the whole population. So 67 or 68 million people in the UK, and they have to do it 24 hours a day. And they have to do it without fail, really. Now, when you turn on a water tap in the kitchen or you turn a light switch on anywhere, you're probably not thinking about what needs to be in place in order for that to happen. But as you can guess, there's an awful lot of pipes and miles of wires and a lot of kit and a lot of people on this working around the clock to make sure it happens, so that the light's there, so that the gas is there for you to cook your dinner on, so that the waste is taken away and hopefully recycled. We're seeing a lot more of that. And this is going on all the time. So it's also, these sectors are in the news quite a lot now because of net zero and environmental concerns and for other reasons. So you do tend to be hearing more about these sectors all the time now. And in particular, from the careers point of view and yourself starting out on careers, you're hearing a lot about green jobs and green industries. All that's very current. It's all happening now. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. So all this goes on all the time. We need thousands and thousands of people to do this. And what we're interested in is where we get those people from, because all this activity will need to continue, and it will need to continue in greener ways. So we think this is going to be the big sector for green jobs. If we look a little bit more detail at that, then we've got two sorts of areas of concern, really: workforce and skills. So on the workforce side of it, what I mean is we do things to try to make sure we've got enough people to do these jobs in gas and power and waste and water. So we're interested in the workforce and where it comes from, and we're also more interested in the skills. So that's the work that you do is done properly and it's safe. And how we get involved in that on the workforce side of things and ensuring we have enough people. We do things like this. And we also have a website that I'll come on to later on, and we do a range of things around what we call attracting people into the sectors. That's partly us, but much more so it's our members, who I'll come on to in a minute. And on the skills side of it, making sure the work is done right and it's safe. How we do that is we get involved with the apprenticeships for the sector. So we bring together the employers and we help to write the apprenticeship standards and frameworks that you would be doing if you were starting a career in these industries, or maybe already in these industries and moving on. We're also interested in the qualifications for the sector, so the courses you can take and the assessments you can do and the qualifications you get to say that you're safe to do your job. We're interested in competency schemes as well. So sometimes new things will come along. So in our case, give you an example, it might be hydrogen coming along. So that means a new set of standards that people have got to work to because it's a new thing. So we develop competency schemes. And we also have registrations. So registrations is where you do one of our programs and you get a card that says you're safe to work in that environment. And a good example of that would probably be in the water industry, where we have a card that you take with us and it explains how you need to behave and carry out your work around clean drinking water, because nobody can get near the drinking water supply without having that knowledge and understanding, and that's what our registrations do. Okay, so I've put 2 or 3 slides in here, and it's just really a list of our employers, because I wanted to make the point that we've got most of the UK's power and gas and water and waste management businesses on board with us, and we've got their supply chain. So some of these names, as I just go through these couple of slides, some of these you'll recognise, they're sort of household names, others you might not recognise, but these are the employers that you would be working with in our sector. So these are your potential future employers. Covering the 4 sectors. The reason you see some construction companies in there as well is because our members have a supply chain, and the construction companies or builders are part of the supply chain. So you know, if I'm running a waste company, I might want to build a new energy from waste recovery facility, and I'm going to need builders to do that. So some of the building companies, the construction companies, like to come on board with us as well, as do other supply companies. So as you can see, there's quite a few on here. Giving you a wide range of organisations that you might work for. Okay, so how many people we're talking about altogether? So we reckon that there are over 500,000 people employed in the sector, and so that's the people who are making sure the lights stay on, making sure the gas is there, making sure the wastewater is taken away, making sure the waste is disposed of properly. Over 500,000. Now, there are sectors that are bigger, but there probably aren't so many where your jobs potentially have such a big impact. It's obviously very important that the power stays on and the gas keeps coming through and the water keeps coming through. So we reckon over 500,000 there, and they're in a range of roles and occupations, and we'll look at those in a bit more detail in a minute. But to focus it a bit more, if we look at how many we think we need, so we looked across this decade. So let's say from 2019, a few years ago, to 2029, and we reckon that across the decade, we'd probably need 277,000 people, over 250,000 people, to fill the roles in the industry across that decade. Now, that's quite a lot to do on its own, and it's happening more and more because people who've worked in the sector for a long time, usually, people tend to stay in the sector, they've had their careers and they're getting older and they're leaving, basically, they're retiring, they're finishing work. So that leaves us across the decade with over 250,000 jobs, workers we've got to find. But that's before we get to the green jobs, because we know a lot more new jobs, green jobs are coming along. We're working now to try to work out how much that will be, but what it means is that figure's going to go up and not going to go down, probably. Okay, if we just get into some of the detail now and look at some of the jobs. So all those businesses that we just looked at, all our members, they all have the usual type jobs, or most of them will. So they'll have people doing business admin, and they'll have people doing the legal stuff. They'll have marketing, they'll have sales. They probably will have customer service and finance, etc. But also, the interesting thing for today, from my point of view, is they will also have the vital technical jobs that are either already green jobs or they're going to be green jobs. And there'll be new ones coming along in those as well. So we're talking about things like jobs, green jobs in solar power, in hydrogen, in electric vehicle charging. You'll see a lot more of that. In wind turbines, you'll see more of those. In nuclear power stations, you'll see more of those as well. And those roles are all crucial to net zero and preserving the environment. And I'll explain a bit more about that in a minute. If we look down the right-hand side there, although it's possibly a bit small on the screen, those are some of the apprenticeships that we currently offer in the sector. So those are some of the technical apprenticeships, usually level 3, some are level 2, some are higher than that, in some of the roles that are important to keeping it all going and that will increasingly become greener roles as time goes on. So water process technician, that's a job, speaks for itself. We're going to need a lot of people to make sure the water stays clean. We've got smart meter installers in there, power network craftsperson. Some of these people work on overhead lines. So, you know, there's a storm, it affects the power supply, people have to go and fix it. We've got all the maintenance stuff in there. And of course, we've got the gas as well, people who work on the big gas pipelines and work on the gas distribution. So it gives you an idea there of the kind of apprenticeships we're offering, or that the sector offers, our employers offer, but there are more coming along all the time because the roles are changing and becoming greener. So at the moment, things that are being looked at are a possible power generation apprenticeship that would cover wind turbines and hydroelectric power, probably nuclear as well. We're probably also going to see hydrogen apprenticeships coming along because hydrogen's got a big role to play in net zero. And things, maybe apprenticeships, maybe qualifications or courses in installing solar panels, air and ground source heat pumps that you might have heard about. All this will need people to do it, and those people will have to be skilled in the right way and do apprenticeships or do qualifications or do other training programs. That's what we're involved in. And what we're most interested in is where we get the people to do this. Okay. I've talked a lot about, or mentioned a lot about net zero there, which is a big driver for green jobs and the green economy. So it's worth just reflecting on what it is. So what net zero is really about is achieving a balance between the amounts of greenhouse gases that our day-to-day activities put into the atmosphere with the amount taken out. Now, the greenhouse gases are generally those that are thought to help trap heat in the atmosphere and lead to what's called global warming. In practice, really, net zero means putting less greenhouse gas, particularly carbon dioxide, into the atmosphere and finding ways to take more of it out. So you begin to see that in the power generation sector and power transmission and distribution, in the gas sector, in water and waste management, these businesses will really be on the front line of doing all this, of ensuring the sustainability of the environment and the sustainability of all these services in a way that's green, that reduces greenhouse gas emissions. So you begin to see that it will need a lot of people to do that. Okay, things that we'll have coming up then, and the changes that you'll see. So in the power sector, the electricity generation will move away from fossil fuels like gas. We're still using a bit of coal, but we do use quite a bit of gas. It will move away from that to things like wind power. So you've seen the big turbines, both on the land and out at sea, probably solar power, solar panels, nuclear power stations. So some more are being approved now, and other technologies which don't put any or as much carbon dioxide or other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. In the gas sector, methane, which is natural gas, which is what you're probably burning in your boiler at home, that will probably be replaced by hydrogen as part of the mix of energy that we use in future. In the water sector, what people are looking for are improved water networks that are more resilient to flood and drought and can work through climate change that way, and also more land management, because even things like reducing carbon dioxide, it can come down to planting trees on land and that kind of thing to take the carbon dioxide out. Also, interestingly, the water companies have pledged to make or many of them have pledged to make their operations effectively net zero as soon as they can. So you might have, the water companies use a lot of energy to push the water around. So in some cases, they're doing things like putting up wind turbines to give them the electricity to do that. They may even be putting floating solar panels on the reservoirs to generate the electricity to do that, to give them the energy they need to operate. And in the waste sector, we can certainly expect to see a lot more recycling of household waste and less going to landfill and a lot more energy from waste. So you may have noticed alongside some of the motorways, you're getting big energy from waste recovery plants going up, and what they do is they basically burn household waste. There's a power station underneath that plant, so the heat's used to make steam. The steam drives a turbine and they produce electricity. That's what happens in the area I live. The household waste goes to make electricity. So these are the new jobs that are coming along. We're working out the numbers now, but you can imagine there are going to be a lot more careers in these. And if you look at it in the bigger picture, if you just look at solar power, we don't have that many solar panels in this country, but I'm expecting to see more, because one of my favorite facts is that enough energy from the sun altogether actually falls on the earth in an hour to power all our needs, the whole of humanity's needs, for a year. It's just that we don't catch that much of it. So you can expect to see more solar power as well as the other technologies. So that's where we're going with things. So how do you get into these industries or into these employers? Well, those employers that we looked at earlier on, they take on a wide range of people, very, very diverse. approach to taking on people into the workforce. They're committed to an inclusive and diverse approach to workforce, and they recruit at all levels. So they'll be recruiting technical jobs, all the other jobs. They'll be recruiting younger people, recruiting older people as well. So this is a short YouTube video that we made to explain how it fits together and where to go to get a look at vacancies in the energy and utilities sector. Okay. Finally, what we also have is we have a website called Energy and Utilities Jobs, and that's the link to it on there. And Energy and Utilities Jobs is where some of our member companies list their vacancies, and there are also case studies on there, and the qualifications you need, and a lot of real-time vacancies on there across the piece. And that's how they filter towards the company. So basically, you can find these jobs clustered together on there, and then it will go through to the companies that will be your future employers. So all the information's in one place. There are also obviously people go to the company's own websites, and there are other places they advertise as well. But this one website was designed to bring them together, give you some case studies and an idea of what you need to do if you're interested in getting into the sector. And that's me for today. So thank you very much for your time.